Hello, Palmistry subscriber friends. Thank you for watching another video. I hope you're all getting a good amount out of these. Now, this person has sent me very clear images. Look at the clarity, the detail in these images. I can get right in there and spot all the signs of the skin ridges there. Look, there's an apex directly in the center of the Jupiter mount, and that's exactly, shows me precisely where the mount itself is centered. And I can look at other skin ridge patterns as well, other markings and loops, and determine all sorts from this person's palm. The fingerprint patterns as well. Look, you got a loop there on Mercury. Oh, look at that. We've got a lovely whirl there on Apollo, a loop, and another whirl there on Jupiter. Interesting. Very interesting. If you want more clarity in your readings, I need clarity like this in my images. The more detail I have, the more detail I can provide. Now, this person has sent me several images of their palms and asked me a couple of questions. And you can see here the questions he's asked me: health and finance, kid education, and wife health. Yeah, see, I'm going to struggle with that because I can only determine a person's academic success and or health by looking at their palms, so I'm not going to be able to disclose much there. How will be my end period, so the end of this person's life, we'll have a look at that, and any unforeseen bad things to rectify. Now, when I say I'll look at the end part of their life, I'm going to look at their winter years. I'm never going to disclose information about a person's possible the end date, or how or when a person might die. It's very rare that I can see that sort of thing anyway, but I wouldn't ever tell a person because it's just not helpful. And the whole point of palmistry is to be helpful. It's a healing practice, and if we're not helping, if we're not healing, if we're not guiding, we're not palmists. We are something else. Hippocrates was a palmist, as was Aristotle, and it's from Hippocrates that doctors take the Hippocratic oath. So, if we do harm, then what's the point? What's the purpose? So I've sort of made a bit of a vow to myself: never tell a person when the end of their life will be, when they might die. So let's have a look here and just sort of break down the first question, which is a bit sneaky because it's two questions. Health and finances, two very different things. But I just want to get into, let's just cover the basics here and determine the category of this person, the kind of template characteristics of this person we're dealing with, because that can have an effect on the findings of the more sort of finer details. So, I mean, just looking at this palm, we can see that it's it's a spatulate palm, as in it's wider at the base than at the top, and with sort of broad-based spatulate palms like this, where the lunar mount and Venus, well, that was not a good example. Venus here, and lunar, they're well developed, and the bridge is gapped here between Neptune. This person takes to tasks efficiently and quickly, and with enthusiasm as well, and they have a good way of communicating their ethos in the way that they do it as well. You get a good sense as to who they are by the way they carry out certain tasks. And I say enthusiasm because with spatulate palms, when the palm appears sort of quite hard and rough, you have a kind of dogged determination. But here we have, I mean, the clarity of this image allows me to kind of make a borderline assumption here that actually this is quite a springy palm, and that's why I use that term enthusiasm. This is a thoroughly enthusiastic person. So as I said, they communicate in the way they do things, but they're also just good communicators anyway. When you have this, the bridge of Neptune here, so Venus is linked and guided by this ability to captivate and hold an audience and get their message across. They're good communicators, certainly in the workplace. And really the downside to having a kind of, basal spatulate palm is that there's quite a lot of energy there. And if that's not focused in the right way, it can be quite negative, because I suppose spatulate palms of this nature are more prone to anger flare-ups, bad, tempers, because it's like a fizzy bottle and it's ready to pop at any time. And the way I would determine, sort of anger issues is to look at the thumb and to see if it kind of, balloons out, which this one doesn't. I'm not massively concerned there. And there are many other ways as well to determine a person's nature and as to whether or not they are able to, have a handle on their emotions and rein in and a short temper. Many ways to spot that: the fingernails, the heart line, the space in between the head and the heart line. That's another sign of radical thinking, impulsive thinking, impatience sometimes, and it shows a disconnect between the head's energies and the life's energies. So there's the mind thinks apart from the environment. So sometimes it shows that there's a disconnect between the person's environment and the way they're thinking. I suppose that's probably the best way of putting it, but that's not very clear at the same time. And it can mean different things for different people, and other signs have to be weighed up in the palm. But it's certainly one sign of possible temper issues. And as I've said, obviously, the thumb there, if that kind of balloons out, that's a bit of a warning sign. That's the biggest warning sign, really, because the thumb is an excellent indicator as to a person's overall character. And I don't see that there, although there may be times when this person needs to take a few deep breaths and sleep on decisions. And also, they probably feel quite irritable and frustrated in their roles. So when a broad-based spatulate palm, such as this one that's wider at the bottom, where their fingers generally sort of splay outwards, and that shows a need to explore and be free. And with all the images that this person sent me, the fingers are close together. Now, if this is the sort of natural kind of finger leanings, this would show frustration. Currently, they're frustrated in their role, and I would advise a person, any broad spatulate based sort of person, to seek a different job if that's the case, because you can't be working in a role where you feel you're tied down, you're restricted. That will create further frustrations, and essentially the bottle here will it will get fizzier and fizzier, and without some sort of release, there may well be a negative consequence. So it's hard to know really whether or not this person has fingers that kind of splay outwards, just because they're all kind of closed with these images. I would think this person actually does have fingers that kind of splay outwards a little bit. So I'm not too concerned about this person's job at the time. Anyway, let's get back to the question. So, health. So I just had a look all over the palm here for any health issues, and I'm not picking up on a great deal. I mean, I will say that there is some metals in the blood. There are some chemical imbalances here, and possible eyesight issues. Other than that, I can't see anything else that's really of note. I can see that later on in life, this person will require an operation and will move away after this, but health looks good after this time, and you can see a square appearing around the period in this person's life when that occurs. And curiously, you've got a little Mars line here, which just kind of provides that extra assistance and for the immune system to you know, a bit of extra kind of vitality backup there, much needed in old age when you're going through an operation. And then after that, you can see, you know, this person moves away. So perhaps, and this is not for a great deal of time yet for this person. This person's 49 years old currently, and we're looking at, I mean, you know, a way off yet. Like I'm talking late 60s, 70s. So by that time, situation could have completely changed. Lines on this person's hand will have completely changed. However, this box here, within a box, is a great sign, and you can see the health line, or you know, the Mercury or the liver line, how it's kind of coming into contact with the lifeline. It's sort of showing us that this this event is happening at this time, that this person's environment is hugely affected by their health specifically. Then, you know, the health line's coming in and coming into contact with it at this time. But all will be well. All in all, I've got no major concerns here about this person's health. However, I would advise them to perhaps see a dentist about getting rid of those fillings that's probably causing some increased metals in the blood. There's some irregularities there, and to get a water filter as well. Cholesterol's a little bit high as well. I mean, I don't have any major worries about the heart, where the heart's concerned at this time, although there might be some later kind of coronary issues. So, and the biggest one for that, okay, yeah, of course, reduced cholesterol, anyone can say that, but stress is a big one for this person. They really need to avoid stress where possible, all right, where health is concerned. And, you know, one of the things I have noticed about this person's palm, straight away, you've got the short Mercury finger. I mean, it is low set, so if you offset the length of Mercury, actually, it's not a short Mercury, it's just a low set Mercury. So, and that shows probably adverse child experiences, you know, and in combination with the Jupiter finger, which is slightly higher set than Apollo, yet Jupiter is still shorter than Apollo, and also Jupiter is not reaching past the halfway mark of Saturn. It's only just shorter, and the tip of Jupiter leans in as well. Now, all of these things show us that, and also we've got a bit of a gap here. This shows us that this person probably had a bit of a bully of a father, probably quite a sort of military type father figure, you know, quite a very strict, critical, and overly kind of punishing father. And I think it had an effect on this person, and I think this person seeks guidance from others when making decisions due to a lack of confidence. And this all stems from childhood, which is a great shame. However, the good news is this person has really shaped themselves and their lives, I can see, through the left and the right hand here. It's quite fascinating. There are some vast differences in the left and the right hand here. So on the right hand here, we've got a headline that reaches all the way across, and we've got the head and the lifeline are still disconnected, but then there's this great leap of effort in mid to late 30s, and it's an ambition line that leaps right upwards towards Jupiter, this place of ambition and authority and sort of leadership and judgment, and it makes its way, it crosses the headline. There were difficulties you know, in achieving this ambition, but this person has, and still is doing it, and it crosses the place of, you know, emotions and relationships. It crosses many areas of this person's life, and they probably received a lot of support from their wife during this time of great achievement and success. And you can see this ambition line creeping right up onto Jupiter, and it's just a fascinating story in itself, because the left hand doesn't show this same, I mean, it does show it, but in a different way. And there's a lot of there's a lot of stress, a lot of obstacles, but there's also a lot of guidance and protection as well, a lot of support. And the Mars line here is just exceptional. There's a great loyalty line. This person is highly loyal to both their family and their career. So, I mean, I've been investigating here. Now, you can see the ridge patterns here, the ridge and furrows of the skin here. And it's all over the palm. They're well formed, they're deep, they're clear. And this is a sign of a healthy hand. Now, anywhere in the palm where it's not appearing as clear, where there's kind of some broken, where they become bitty and broken and not so well formed, that might be an area for investigation. And if, in fact, there's a particular spot where the palm kind of becomes, the nodules become toughened, the skin ridges become rough, then that particular spot, whatever that place represents, so it could be a bladder issue or urinary or pancreatic, for wherever in the palm that kind of shows us this, that's where a problem may lie in the body. So it comes down to cross-referencing exactly what that part of the body represents in terms of identifying a health issue. And I can't see any real issues. That's not to say this person doesn't have any, it's just I'm not seeing any at the moment. But I do think in particular this person needs to take care of their emotional well-being around the age of about 56, and to cut out milk particularly and stress, because as I say, there could well be some coronary issues, but I think mostly that might be related to possible anxiousness and stress. So we can reduce the physical effects by treating the physiological. So, I mean, overall health-wise, I don't see any issues, except with an excessive amount of calcium fluoride in this person's blood. And as I say, a water filter will really help with that. And it can come out in a variety of ways. The most common is a thyroid issue, and we can see 3 little lines there on the tip of Mercury, and that's a clear sign of that. But we don't see that so much on the right palm. There's still a bit of a thyroid issue there, but it's nothing severe. I mean, whatever this person's doing, it's working anyway. So moving on, money-wise, I mean, now this person's career is interesting because on the left hand, and this is how we are affected by our circumstances and our environment internally, it shows us that this person works from some sort of place of imagination, but there's also an element of working with others. The whirl on Apollo there shows us this person has some sort of connection with the home in their job, and I feel like what they do is quite physical as well. So I'm wondering if they're in some sort of business where they are creating things for the home. On the right hand, it shows us a bit of a different story. The career is still coming from a similar place. Success certainly begins with this ambition at the same time. The success line is stronger on the left hand than it is the right, and that shows this person's money tends to be absorbed by their many dependents at home. And we can see the relationship line here. There are several possibilities for children on that line. The family line it's quite confusing, and that might well be because of what I've mentioned earlier about the adverse child experiences. I mean, we can clearly see at least one child there. don't prescribe a great deal of accuracy to the rising lines from the relationship lines, because they are the potential for children, and we have to weigh up the capacity for a person's ability to love, as well as their position in life as well. So sometimes these rising lines from the relationship line are pets, or even children they teach at school if they're a teacher and they feel very strongly about their pupils. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possible supposed children lines. But you know, in today's society, contraception, miscarriages, I suppose, even, it doesn't necessarily mean this person has this many children. It's just the potential for them throughout the time of this relationship. And you know, relationship lines are just as fickle. They're not necessarily relationships or marriages at all. We can develop a strong relationship with a family member, and they can become a business partner. So we can be on a particular wavelength with that person and work with them daily. And so, you know, that could appear as a relationship line. You know, ultimately, a person who has many, many relationships could only have, you know, none even, or one relationship line. I think this person's finances will drastically improve very soon for this person. They're 49, and at the age of around 54, 55, this person's finances are going to improve. And there are some obstacles coming from the family to try to affect and influence this person's finances and also their happiness. So that's security, really. And as I say, 55, 56 is particularly an age that this person will need to protect themselves, look after themselves, and they will receive some support through from friends and family as well. For this person, there was a great deal of disappointment in their lives probably around the age of late teens, and it's caused them to have this very idealistic outlook, a high expectancy from others in relationships. I think they were let down in a big way by someone who they cared about very strongly. It's, you know, shaped them as the person they are today. And I would kind of advise this person to pay more attention to their home life, focus less on work, because work will actually look after itself, and this person might find that difficult to believe. Don't worry about money so much. I can see you're thinking about money. The headline rises upwards towards the end there. It's actually going to be just fine money-wise. Things look very good. The home life there could be some improvements in their communication between this person's this person is closest to could do with some improvement. And communication is a big word. I don't mean that in just a verbal way. I think physical communication and relationships could be strengthened with those closest to this person. So I definitely advise this person to spend more time with those they love and focus more attention on those, you know, nearest and dearest. Now, I have noticed a couple of signs on this person's palm here. You know, you've got this, I mean, it's very rare to see this exceptional rising like this on Jupiter. This person's elevated themselves into a position that I don't think they themselves thought possible, perhaps, certainly others. There is a bit of a cross there on Jupiter, and there's a bit of a cross formed by a convergence there in between the head and the heart line. There's also one singular upward stroke there on the tip of Mercury that's quite profound, that's quite strong, and it's isolated as well, and it shows exceptional intuition. And I think this person knows, they've got great instincts, and I think they rely on those instincts, and they've kind of honed them a little bit. In business, they certainly use this, And I would advise them to use this more at home as well. Use this outside of the work setting as well. And I think actually inherently a lot of the answers to their questions lie in their own questions. I think they already know the answers to a lot of the questions that they're asking me. At least one of their children, I'm certain, will be extremely successful. Whether or not they follow in this person's footsteps is another question. I just think that this person needs to focus more on their loving relationships and their children and their wife. There may be some things occurring at home that they're unaware of just because they're focusing so much time and energy on their career. This person is clearly a well-known person and likely has many friends and is seen as probably someone who's a bit eccentric and hugely devoted to their career. And this, this singular sort of upward stroke here seen on Apollo, and as I've said, the world seen on the Apollo right hand. These in combination show someone who has exceptional understanding and of things of I think they're ahead of their time, and I think they're able to look at things in an artistic way, understand design and beauty and things artistically in a way that most creative people can't. This isn't necessarily, a headline that speaks volumes in someone who's creative. I don't see a massively creative person, but I do think this is someone who has instinctive artistic intuition and ability to think ahead as well. And in combination, I think they've managed to carve a bit of a name for themselves somehow. And I think, as I say, there's someone who works in a way that has implications of things to do with the home. I feel like they make things, furnishings perhaps, for the home, and they're very good, they're gifted at knowing, perceiving potential future trends with this as well. So I'm getting fairly specific here. So with regards to, children, I think, there will be one particularly very successful and hugely independent and healthy child. That's a definite. That's a given. As for this person's wife's health, I don't know. I just don't know about that one. But I would advise that they focus more time on their wife. Communicate, strengthen any bridges there. Don't worry about money. It'll sort itself out. It doesn't matter. The first wealth is health, and on that note, health is looking fine. There will be an operation much later in life, and there'll be a move away after that time, but as I say, it's much later. And I think that's about everything for this person. So if you've got any questions at all, let me know what you think. I mean, I still feel like there's a lot more to discover here, but I can't spend too much time on every reading. So I hope this has been enjoyable. Thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, share, and all that jazz. And if you think that it's worth sending me your palm, please do. But just note, the waiting list is getting bigger, and I don't have enough time to sift through them all. So you will be waiting a while. Alright, that's all from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.